Welcome to the Mid-Life Reimagined Life Beyond Menopause podcast. I'm your host, Sally Thibault. You know, I am passionate about health and health food and eating well. My guest today, Lynae Schemenauer, is a perfect example of why eating well and exercising and focusing on your mindset is so critical when something goes wrong. It's a fantastic conversation. I can't wait to bring it to you. I am absolutely thrilled today to welcome a very dear friend of mine, Lynae Schemenauer, as a guest on the podcast. Lynae is an esteemed executive leader and the founder of Healthy Living with Lynae. With a remarkable 27-year career in law enforcement, she possesses a unique perspective shaped by extensive leadership experience and a profound commitment to holistic wellness. As a natural, nutritional, clinical practitioner, a certified holistic nutritionist, certified holistic counselor, and certified mindset coach, registered with the Canadian Association of Natural Nutrition Practitioners, Lynae merges scientific wellness principles with real-world applications to empower individuals and organizations alike. Her personal journey through adversity, including a life-altering experience with septic shock in 2018, deepened her understanding of the intricate relationship between mental, physical, and emotional well-being. This pivotal moment, inspired by her guiding philosophy, Build for Impact, emphasizes preparedness for life's challenges. Through Healthy Living with Lynae, Lynae leads transformative workshops, webinars, and wellness programs designed to enhance performance, resilience, and overall well-being. Her evidence-based approach integrates nutrition, mindset, and lifestyle strategies, cultivating sustainable success in high-demand environments. A sought-after speaker and contributor to various wellness publications and podcasts, Lynae exemplifies the principles she advocates, inspiring others to embrace resilience and thrive. She certainly does. Welcome, Lynae.
Oh, what a beautiful welcome. Thank you. I am absolutely honored to be here. Super excited.
Lynae and I met, I think, a year ago, maybe. We at a function. Yeah. And we just kind of connected, and then we'd just bump into each other at various events. And Lynae, together with Dr. Miranda Wiley and myself, presented a workshop, an online workshop back in March. And before Lynae took off to Mexico and I took off to Australia, and we were looking to do another event later on in this year. Lynae, I just love your story, and I really want for you to share that story because I think it really highlights just how powerful what you believe now can impact on others. So let's go back to 2018. So what happened?
Wow. So, this is still hard to talk about, and I'm getting better at it, but I still sometimes get choked up because it was such a life altering incident. So, I'll take a few minutes just to lead up into that.
Right.
So, I had my daughter in 2005. I had complications when I had her. And from 2005 to 2018, I had had several surgeries prior to that one. So this was not a new surgery that I was going into in 2018. I had had it, well, that specific one about 3 times before. And I'd also had a hysterectomy in 2012, which we'll also talk about because that really changed my midlife of like, am I in perimenopause? Am I in menopause? But we'll get into all that because I did have a hysterectomy at the age of 40. So that was in 2012. So now fast forwarding into 2018, I was going in for pretty significant surgery, like, the hip to hip type of C-section surgery, pretty significant. I'd had it before. I knew what to expect. And leading into all of my prior surgeries, I always went in with the mindset of being as strong as you possibly can, mindset and physically. And it was just like an innate, just a feeling. I mean, I'd always been in the fitness and wellness industry, and I always took really good care of myself. But there was just this, I don't know, there's just this voice inside of me whenever I went in for surgery. And I hadn't had complications before, but they were all significant recoveries. And I knew what to expect coming out of them. I would have to be strong. I would have to make sure that I'm in the best shape and strength that I had. So going into the surgery was no different. I was working out right up until the day of and doing my things and making sure my diet was like just keyed right in. So I went in for my surgery and I was in hospital, had my surgery, significant. You're usually in about 3 days after. And it was I won't get into the details, but it was a female related surgery, obviously, as you can probably suspect. And after the 3 days, I was released from hospital and I was released home. And then I was rushed back in within about 24 hours. And they just basically released me again with medication and thinking it was just like a bowel issue, which often, that can happen when you're having such a significant surgery. And within about another 24 hours, about 30 hours, I was found completely incoherent and had thrown up the entire night and rushed back in to St. Paul's Hospital. And I was living out like where I am now, South Surrey area. And by the time I got into hospital, I was in complete shock. And at that point, my kidneys were already in failure mode. And they didn't know what was happening to me at all, given that time. They could not put me in a dye scan. And this probably makes sense to anyone with a medical background, but I just know how to explain it, how I know how to explain it. And you got to remember, I'm in shock. So a lot of this I don't remember other than reading medical reports. And then obviously what I'm getting from people that were called to the hospital because of my serious condition and what those messaging were given, right? So my kidneys were going into failure, so they couldn't do the dye scan. So they put me on some type of drain to just get my system somewhat functioning enough. And then they did a scan, MRI, and they determined my ureter had been completely severed in my surgery. And I was full in septic shock at that point. I was in hospital for about 3 weeks. I undertook 4 surgeries. I had gained about 60 pounds of fluid and really had to learn how to pretty much walk again. I had major nerve damage in my legs. I was on a PICC line. My veins had collapsed, like everything you can imagine. And going into that surgery, I was on a recent podcast and they asked me just like, because my daughter didn't know. I
Mm.
didn't let my daughter know. She was only, 13 around at the time. And it was just not a conversation to be had. And things were happening like quickly. The surgeries were very quickly. Once they realized my ureter had been severed, it was a life-saving surgery.
Mm.
And from what I recall, it was about 2 hours before I was advised of that. And then when I was rushed in to do that surgery. And then, after the recovery and coming out of all of this, I was sitting down with that surgeon that did the life-saving surgery. And I will never forget this. He said, because I had to undertake another 2 more surgeries after that. And what he said to me, he said, if you had not been in the shape that you had been in, you would not be sitting here today. There's
Wow.
absolutely no way your body would have not been able to deal with the amount of surgeries and the amount of like really toxins within your body. So that's what happened in 2018. So it really fueled my absolute desire to move from policing once I retired, which I retire next year, into what I've been doing for, several years already is the holistic nutrition and the wellness coaching. And it's really the philosophy built for impact is simply what it
Mm.
states is that you are really building your body and you should really think of it like that. Your most desired possession is your body. And I really look at it as set your mind and body up for the time when you need the absolute strength to get through anything, because it wouldn't have been in the time that I needed it for me to think, oh, I should have, eaten healthier. I should have a better mindset. I wish I would have worked out or whatever. You really want to make sure that you have the best of that before you get hit with an impact. And
And that's the
as
thing, isn't
you,
it? That's what we're
yeah,
doing. It's not what happens to you, but how you recover, how you get over whatever happens to you. I mean, that build for
abs-
impact is, the visual I get is, bang, you've got something happen. And as the surgeon said to you, you would not be here today if you hadn't done all that. I think people can tend to get a bit caught up in the fact that if you're healthy and strong, nothing ever happens to you. And, that's just not the case. It's how your
no.
body recovers. It's like it's the insurance that you're creating for your body.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's like, that build for impact is like impact's going to happen. And it's not like a negative to thing, like be prepared for things that we don't want to come. But I've lived enough life and been around enough people that regardless,
Yes.
impact will come, whether it's a mental or physical challenge that you have
Yes.
to have. It is life. Like that is life, right? And so it's really building yourself up the best you can for the resilience to get through whatever that is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
mm,
and 100% true. And I said, I think what people tend to think of is when something like they don't want to think of the negative. Well, of course we don't. We don't want to think of the negative, but it's like when you're prepared, you're not looking down. You're doing something every single day to prepare. And when we recently came back from Australia, both Jerry and I had got a cold, and we're like, how the hell did we get that? Like, traveling 24 hours. But we were over it in 3 days. It's not the fact that we didn't get the cold, but we were over it in 3 days, and that's what that's all about. We weren't, confined to bed and it took a week to get over it, none of that. And that we both put down to the fact of the supplements we take and that take good care of our bodies, that our body was able to fight it really simply.
absolutely.
So in all, how many surgeries have you had over the years then?
13.
Wow. Wow.
13. Yes. And it's funny because I've had a few, just like anything in life, they'll visually look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, she's probably never had to worry about health, or she's
Yeah.
never probably had to really work for it, or
Yeah.
because I keep myself in really good shape and, I really prioritize wellness,
Mm.
really."
Mm.
But man, oh man, I've worked for it.
Yeah.
I've had to rebuild myself up
Mm.
significant at times where I had no muscle tone from laying in bed for 3 weeks and I couldn't walk and I still have nerve damage in my legs and and I've never really shared this on a podcast, but my, basically from, my whole lower chest down is pretty much mesh, so I'm held together a little bit with mesh, you know what I mean? So and I've had a back surgery and there's like a lot going on. So, but through it all, I know my body like unbelievably well.
Bet.
And
You've been
I,
sliced so many times. You have to know what's going to work and what doesn't, right? I mean, you've had
yes,
literally confined to bed for 3 weeks after these massive life-changing surgery, really, and then have to learn to walk. And I mean, that intuitiveness you must have developed over that time would be quite extraordinary.
I don't know what it's always been in. I mean, I think it's been from when I was younger, is I always am just like, get up, like get up. And I remember the nurses at the hospital being so frustrated with me because I had so many machines. And when I could feel like I could get up to go,
Yeah.
to the shower, which is, not far at all by the nurse's station. They're like, we'll just wipe you down. I'm like, no, like I want a shower.
Mhm.
And they're like, but we have to like cellophane you up, like all of your tubes, because nothing can get wet. I'm like, then do it because I'm going to walk to that shower. I know it's a lot easier for you on your job to
Yeah.
not have me shower,
Yeah.
but I need to go shower. I need to feel like a human being. I need to feel water on my body and like
Yeah.
just, the smallest things. Like when I could get from that floor down to the next floor and get
Yeah.
to the elevator, every day I was pushing myself. Whether first it was just to get to the bathroom on my own, and then it was just to get to the nurse's station, and then to the shower, and then
Yeah.
to the next level, and then
Yeah.
to the lobby. Like every day I was just, as small as it was, or just even sitting on my bed and able to like, brush my own hair. Like, we're talking some pretty significant mind moments where I had to have some really internal talks with myself for sure about life and priorities and where I've been and where I want to go and how do those moments not impact you like that. So
So was it after that surgery when you decided to become a certified nutrition coach? Was it that then that or had you been doing that prior?
nope. No, within that year, I decided I'm going back to school and I studied for close to 5 years as I worked full time to get my two diplomas. So I have two applied nutrition diploma and nutrition counseling diploma. So I have that both. And then I've got my coaching after that. So
So that
yeah,
decision was made when you were in the hospital that last time? Is that when you made that decision to do this? Because
it
you
was
could still
after,
be in
it was after,
recovery,
yeah.
right? I mean, it would take a long time for you to recover, and not just the 3 weeks in hospital. That so
Mhm.
so was it during all that, or did you wait a little while? I'm knowing you. I've got to
Yeah,
feel
you know
you
what?
did it
I'd
all
have to
together.
look at when I registered. That's a good point. I should see when I registered for my first course
Yeah.
and then when my actual, like, date of getting out of hospital was, and just see that time. It was pretty close. Like,
Wow.
it was in probably within the 6 months. Yeah, for sure. Because it really aligned what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, again, that was 2018, and here we are. I'm gonna retire 2027. So, within setting that goal and retiring, like, that was, that length of time, right? So
Extraordinary, extraordinary. I think that's the key in all of this. It's not what happens to you. We hear this all the time. It's how you handle it, what you learn through, how you grow through. And we do actually, unfortunately, grow through tough times. That's how we grow. If everything's absolutely perfect, well, why grow? Everything's perfect. But is that ability to dig deep, isn't it? Really, like dig deep. And I mean, the life-defining moment for you when you're looking at your career in the police force and where you want to go.
Mhm.
And considering what you've been through, it's an empowering moment, that shouldn't be minimized, is the word I'm thinking of. Because I think we all have those defining moments and we choose to do something with it or we don't.
Absolutely. And you know what, too, Sally, I always laugh about this because policing, obviously, I'm mid-50s and everyone's like, "Really? Like, you could just retire. Like, you can retire from policing. You have a good pension. You don't need to do anything else." Like, and we talk about this all the time, right? Mid-50s, you're menopause, postmenopause, whatever, life's over. No, absolutely not. Like,
No.
I feel more energized and rejuvenated than, in my 30s.
Oh, yeah,
There's just a more empowerment about it, and you're just the confidence, and you just step into your own. And we talk about this all the time, right?
yeah,
Where you're just like, I have a lot to give, a lot to give. So,
absolutely.
no,
And
I'm
and
not
it
slowing down anytime soon.
And each decade, I think for a woman, we get more knowledge and more focus. It's not less than. It's wonderful when I get to interview women like you on this podcast because the more I spend time talking with women post-menopause, sort of 55 and beyond, the more I'm seeing this incredible wealth of knowledge and talent that up until really recently has been totally ignored by everybody, marketers and corporate, because I think there's an end date for us. It's just a beginning date.
Absolutely.
It's just a beginning date, especially when we don't really care what you think of us or whatever.
We see the power in the rooms when we're at some of these events, right? With these women, they could literally move mountains. Holy smokes. The power, the knowledge, the resilience, the strength. Yeah, I've been through a lot. I mean, even my policing career, it's been pretty traumatic. That's, no secret, right? I think anybody in policing who's been through some of the sections I have and done some of the work that I've done, and some of my personal stories and my surgeries or what have you. But it's really, like you said, it's really taking it and building on it and really coming into who you are, right? And really knowing that and not
Yeah.
shying away from it and standing up and being unapologetic for it,
Yes.
right?
So now tell me a little bit about what's next for you. You're retiring. I mean, you're doing both things simultaneously. I see you all over social media and doing all these amazing things. What's your big end goal now as you complete one era of your life, the season of your life, and you move into the next season? What's your big goal? Where are you heading now with what you're going to do in your career?
Well, I'm always going to have my one-on-one clients because I absolutely love them. And so there's always going to be a place there for those. But my main business is going to be corporate wellness and organizational wellness. I'm very, very passionate about that. And obviously, I have a space always for like my midlife clients and women going through midlife. And then obviously speaking engagements. So the stage is a place that I love. I love the education, and the mindset comes with that is just really the inspirational part of wellness.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's really where my passion is. I have just such a huge passion for motivating others and educating others and getting people to be aware of
Mm.
just different roadblocks that are happening in their life, whether it's a personal or corporate leadership, whatever that is. I mean, there's key components that I've seen over and over and over again when I'm coaching clients. So,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that's in everything when it comes to health and fitness, it really is more about mindset, about your beliefs about what's possible. And, same as years in this environment, so many people teach the same thing. You see people come in and they're all enthusiastic for the first 2 or 3 weeks and yes, and then the motivation kind of wanes a little. Oh, wait a minute. I screwed up on the weekend. I'm going to start on Monday. I'll start Monday's a new day. Okay. And then it becomes, got to Thursday. Damn it. Well, once I start, I may as well keep on going. I'll start again Monday. So it really is a mind game most of the time.
abs-
And of course, for you, you'd see the same as me. Change takes a long time
yes,
before you
mhm,
see the results. You
absolutely.
have to you have to jump over this, right? So, and that you incorporate a lot in that your coaching, don't you?
Huge. And it's funny, like, it's interesting because when you're trying to get well and healthier, nutrition is such a massive component of it.
Absolutely.
Right? And then obviously the whole mindset. And that's why really love integrating with other women, but it's really the holistic space. You can just be well in one area and not the other. But time and time again, what's really where I spend a lot of time is on reoccurring habits and patterns. And that is continually, no matter what coaching I'm doing, even if it's leadership coaching, it's the same type of things. We keep showing up in our routines and our habits because it's less resistant. Any change, even if we want it, even if it's positive change, even sometimes if it's life decision making,
Yeah.
like we need to get healthier because you are going to die of a disease if you don't. Even then, it's if you look at that, it's like, why is that so hard to change? Habits and patterns. Our brain is wired to do, the least resistant route,
That's
right?
right.
Not go the hardest route.
Yeah.
So even if the easiest route is not good for us, we're going to go to it. And so spend a lot of time with habits and patterns, and you hit it, you said it. It takes a long time, but there is a way and a blueprint and a method to move the needle a lot quicker than if you're just, trying to be more motivated or, what is wrong with me? I'm thinking positively. Why isn't that working? You know what I mean? Like there's bigger components to it.
Yeah.
So we really spend a lot of time on that. And that's where you're going to see the sustainable long-term change
Yeah.
is when your daily habits are completely changed, but you're not even thinking of them anymore. Because what we do on a day-to-day basis, we don't think about it. It's just our
Auto
habit and it's just our
autopilot.
pattern.
Autopilot.
So yeah, that you've changed for the long term
Yeah.
when, all the new things that we're implementing are in your everyday without thinking of them. That's when you know that you've succeeded.
Brilliant.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was funny. I was walking through one of the supermarkets that's just nearby us yesterday. Look at the ultra processed foods are packaged to catch your eye. Bright colors or emotive packaging or healthy, high protein.
Keywords.
I used to work for a large supermarket chain years and years and years ago, and everything was about the eyesight where and companies pay a lot of money to be on your eye level, and most times what's at your eye level is not a punnet of organic strawberries. What's at your eye level is ultra processed foods that are easy to grab. And while I was shopping yesterday, it was obviously towards the end of the day, so 5:30, 6 o'clock, which is a silly time for me to go because I could have gone out the whole day long. But anyway, big lineup. And I thought these people are buying food because they're hungry right now. And your choices
Absolutely.
when you're hungry right now are very different from when you plan. And just interesting as we're standing in the to go to the register, there's all these sweets and chocolates and high protein and blah blah blah. And if you're hungry,
Mhm.
it's easy. So what do you recommend to people about that when you go into the supermarket? The marketing is specifically designed to catch your eye. What's some of the, let's say, hacks that you would suggest to somebody?
Well, and it's so interesting because a lot of these are, different individual based because everyone kind of has their own different challenges that they're working with when it
Yeah.
comes to certain foods, right? But I mean, the most basic kind of that everybody knows is really to shop on the outside. And you'll hear that time and time and time again. And really, my big thing too is be curious, be
Mm,
aware,
mm,
right? The knowledge is power. Really do your deep dive on what fruits and vegetables are better to take organically and maybe some that aren't. I'm always very alive to the cost of food. And some people are like, I can't afford to just go buy organic,
yeah,
you know?
that
And
is a
so we look at
mm,
things like that. We look at what frozen berries could you use because frozen berries are often cheaper and they actually, hold a lot of the nutrients a lot
yes,
better. So we look at things like that. But I mean, the biggest thing is I spend a lot of time on ingredient lists and what are the do's and don'ts even. I often will give clients, especially with if they're really wanting to know what foods to eat, is certain lists.
yeah,
And you want to eat within these lists
mm,
because really you can simplify it that much, into your proper carbs and your clean proteins and your healthy fats and, really focusing on fiber and things like that. So your diet should be making up, say, for example, 95% of that. And then your
mm,
5% or your 10% when you go out for dinner or when you want your snacks or things like that that aren't as healthy. But, you know, there is there is really like lists of ingredients that I'll provide clients and
yeah,
saying, stick to these. The big thing is yeah, exactly what you already said, Sally, is don't go shopping when you're hungry because you will literally pick up. It's crazy what the mind does,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And if you don't want to eat it, don't bring it home. Don't test your willpower and like, okay, I'll buy the cookies, but I'll only have one. Just don't even test yourself with that,
That's
right?
exactly right.
Uh,
Since when's that the thing? I'll just have one. What rubbish.
yeah. Spend a lot of time on being realistic with my
Yeah,
clients,
yeah,
right? I mean, that's so important to be realistic. And I will never take a client's entire meal plan and just be like, all of that food is gone. And now here's a whole new food plan. I never, ever do that.
yeah,
That will not work. They will hang up the towel within a week. So we really slowly incorporate things and habits into it so that we want to build sustainable
yeah,
change,
yeah,
right? And we're talking about balanced. And usually the first week or so, it's really about awareness and tracking their food, being aware of how they're feeling and really like that in depth. And then sometimes I'll even offer going to the grocery stores with clients if they are really not sure, like how to shop or where to shop or what to look for, ingredients to stay away from. So there's lots of different techniques that we can make it very successful that when you go. And, it's funny when you start to hear people say, I used to eat that and I could not even imagine eating that again.
yeah,
Right? And I mean, you're probably, the same. I haven't had probably French fries or a burger in years. And I don't crave it. I couldn't even imagine. Not that you can't have it when you're eating healthy. You
yeah,
want to go have burger and fries and you go for it and
yeah,
enjoy it
yeah.
100%. Right. But once you start eating a certain way, it's just your body just almost rejects that type of
Oh,
food. And that
absolutely.
says a lot about
Yeah.
what's in it, right? Yeah.
Jerry used to love cheesies, and when we were first married, lived in Edmonton, and we used to have hockey night in Canada. It used to be back in the days when there was only one game of hockey during the week and one game on the weekend, not every night of the week. But anywho, and his thing was these cheesies and orange soda. That's what he used to have. And when we came back here, he said, "Oh, let's get some of those cheesies." Honestly, it was like eating chemicals. Like, that's what it tasted like. It was just eating chemicals. But there was a need to have them. There was
Mhm.
something about them that you kept
Yes.
going back for more. Like it was
Yep.
that salt or the crunch or the something that and I'm sure that's how they design food.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. You do become addicted to it, right?
Mm.
And a lot of that comes to do with the carb and the blood sugar, right? And
Yeah.
if you're always peaking and the cravings and stuff like that. And I mean, there's so much science and evidence-based research on all of that. I mean, that's why there's so much going on with health concerns around what we're eating and the blood
Yeah.
sugar, keeping the blood sugar balanced, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That I think for
And we're
me,
on that.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say, but me, it was recognizing sushi just setting my blood sugar levels. I used to love it. I had this, we do as a raw salmon wrapped in avocado with sushi and seaweed. Of course, it's natural, right? It's healthy. When I measured my blood sugar levels after having some that I just have two of those and a fruit, like a smoothie thing. I mean, I couldn't figure out why I was shaking afterwards. It didn't make any sense. So take the ice out of the smoothie. Maybe it's the ice in this is years ago. Until I discovered that it was 85 grams of sugar I was eating just with
Yeah.
the two sushi rolls and this. And now I
Triple of
still
what you should have in a day almost,
it,
right? Yeah.
yeah, well over. And I see a lot of people who eat sushi because they think it's healthy. It's really healthy for Japanese people because that's their culture and that's their gut microbiome. But for the rest of us, it can be really challenging. Well, it was for me. I don't know about anybody else,
Yes.
but when I figured, oh, is that why I'm shaking? Too much sugar in my body. But you're right.
Mhm.
It's about talking to somebody who knows what they're talking about, because we almost make assumptions about food we think is healthy because it's sold to
Yes.
us like that. But if you talk to
And
somebody who's
that's
experiencing it, that's where it goes from there.
absolutely. And that's, I mean, the first I always ask when I'm first meeting a client, we need those food logs. We need to see what's going on, right?
Hmm.
Deep dive, deep dive into what's going on, right? Because you really can't change it if you're not looking at exactly what they're eating, when they're eating it. And not only that, your stress level, your sleep, there's so much more, the movement piece. So
Yeah.
as you know, you live this life too of wellness, right? And it's once you get to know your body, you really start to understand it more. And if you're not doing workouts or eating well, and just that resilience it builds up for yourself. And I find a lot of even corporate clients too. It's really phenomenal because they really truly understand that their company is as well as their people.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just the same as individual,
Yeah.
right? We could only be so well for others, or if we're leading a company or we're leading a family or whatever it is, even
Yeah.
leading ourselves, we could
Yeah.
only do it so well with how well we're doing. Right.
Absolutely, especially in
Yeah.
corporate, because if you want to retain good people in your environment, provide an environment that helps support them, I think is, especially these days with so much going on, I think that's really important. But I think what, you and I have talked about this before, people don't know what they don't know. We're sold things. I mean, the whole ultra processed food industry is designed to market to people. I watched a show just recently, a podcast recently, and they're talking about how much sugar is in cornflakes, just
Yes.
plain cornflakes, because it's the processed corn that hits your system and causes sugar. I mean, and I'm thinking all those parents who think I'm sending my child off to school with cereal and milk, and it's all got to be good for them, right? When they don't know what they don't know. So, there's still a lot of knowledge that needs to be shared,
Absolutely.
and practical knowledge like you're talking about, not extremes.
No, and that's an important point, Sally. I mean, it doesn't take a lot, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always driving on. Just small changes. Just
Mm.
start tweaking small changes because you don't want it to feel overwhelming, right? You don't want it to be like, I literally need to change everything. That
Yeah.
is just, it's too much.
Yeah.
So just adding small little tweaks in a diet
Yeah.
over time can drastically change an outcome, and it's so when you think of it, okay, if I cut that out of my diet and you're like, oh, okay, for 2 weeks, really, what difference does it make? But add that up over a year or 2 years or 5 or 10.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge impact. So the smallest little tweaks, can really, really make a difference. So that's where it's important, where any change is crucial, even if it is small. And I think people need to realize that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Any positive change is better than no change at all. And just keep laying down those bricks and keep, adding those stepping stones in, and you create a different path, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because you went through menopause early, so
Well,
hysterectomy.
yeah.
Yeah. So your body was going through massive hormonal changes. What was that experience like for you? For those of us who don't know what that's like, what was that
Mhm.
like for you at that early age?
Well, it's interesting because so I kept my ovaries. It really was through my 40s, it was pretty normal. But what I had difficulty with is when I started getting symptoms, I really had nothing to gauge it on. And
Mm,
you and I have talked about this before about the definition of menopause. And we've talked about this a lot because I'm like, they need to change the definition.
mm,
And we've been at a lot of events, you and I, about, menopause and premenopause and postmenopause. And I have heard some people mention it, which is great,
yeah,
that, there is women out there that don't have uterus and ovaries anymore. And that menopause definition has to truly take into a lot of different factors. So really when I started getting symptoms, I didn't know. I mean, just like you and I have talked before, I remember my mom going through hot flashes, but other than that, I didn't, when it started hitting, I didn't really initially think that it was hormonal changes, Usually there's always so many other factors going on in our life
yeah,
with, home life and busyness. It's easy to just say, oh, it must be just I'm too overworked or I'm just too tired or,
yeah,
maybe I'm just burnt out or I'm just drained or my brain's not working that great and cognitive issues, right? But so I'm probably been struggling with symptoms probably for at least already a good 4 years. And it really seemed like I woke up one day and the hot flashes were just night and day. Like I just woke up and I completely felt different. And you hear women talking about that.
yeah,
When I look back, I think there are a lot of symptoms were hormonal related that I weren't aware of that they were.
yeah,
But looking back, I'm like, oh, absolutely, that
yeah,
was.
yeah,
So yeah, it's been a very different experience for me just because I obviously haven't had a period since I was 40. So you just don't really know what to gauge it on, right? And you're in these conversations with other women and you're just like, yeah, I'm just kind of symptom based because I don't really know where I'm at.
yeah.
So it's a different experience for sure.
Yeah. So what was the hardest thing for you? What of all that kind of symptoms, what was the hardest thing for you? I mean, you're in a pretty stressful job, obviously studying at the time, recovering from surgery. You could take your pick which is the worst. But when you look back on those symptoms, what was the hardest thing, do you think, for you at that time?
The symptoms with menopause and yeah, perimenopause. I would say the brain fog was really a really big one for me. Even articulating myself and finding words in certain times,
Yeah.
I found it very difficult.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
And I
It's like,
still
where did
do.
that
Like,
word just go? Where did it go? Just
yeah, and now I just own it. Like
yeah.
I will still be presenting or I'll be in a meeting and I'm like, yeah, it's gone. Just give me a minute, it will come back. Like what else are you supposed to do, right? And definitely my hot flashes. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
It truly anyone that experienced hot flashes, mine were severe. Like it was full on fire mode. It was my body is just on fire for a few minutes and you can't hide it. Like
No.
you're beet red, you're sweating, like what do you do with that, right? I've gone really good into layering, multi-layering, and I'll again be in a presentation and all of a sudden I'm taking layers off and they're thinking like, what is next? But what do you do,
I
right?
know.
You just kind of gotta laugh.
You
Like,
do.
I'm sure.
I tell this story often. We were at a barbecue one that it was, and there were all there would have been probably, I don't know, 40 people there. We all knew each other. My girlfriend was at the stove making something. She just started taking everything off. The jeans came off, the shirt came off. And of course, we were just cracking up laughing, poor thing. But we all had been through it. And the guys were kind of looking in the window going, what's going on in there? And then after 5 minutes, she's okay. And she just gets stressed again. I mean, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're all the same age and we'd all been through it and we kind of got it. But I just thought those moments, I mean, there must have been times when you were in meetings at work when that happened with men.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them are young guys. Like I'm around pretty much in my career. I was on the range the other day qualifying for my annual firearms. I'm the only girl in the room. And again, like, what do you do with that? I
Yeah.
mean, it is what it is, right? Again, unapologetically,
Yeah.
I was in another, speaking thing with a bunch of younger men. And they're probably looking at me like, what is going on? But I take it kind of with some humor. It's so funny because I'm like, if you want to be educated, I can fully educate you on this subject. But just know that right now my body is completely on fire. Like I'm not going crazy. It's just hormonal issues. Like just let it pass. I'll be good in a moment, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what do you do?
Really,
Yeah.
well, I mean, 51% of the population are going to go through it, and if the young guys, their mothers or their girlfriends who they'll eventually marry, or they'll go through it. I think it's a much better time we're living in. We could keep talking forever, but I always ask people to share, if you could talk to your 30-year-old self again, the girl before all this happened, what what
Mhm.
what piece of advice would you give her?
Well, you know what? A couple things, and I really reflect on this a lot lately, is obviously I wish I was, more kinder to myself through a lot of difficult moments.
Yeah,
But a big thing, and I think women are not great at doing this, is just really trusting in yourself.
yeah,
Really trusting you know the answers, you know yourself,
yeah,
listen to your gut, be sure of yourself, and maybe it's just the certain environments I've been in, but I've kind of shushed that away for so many years. But I think now that's already almost 2.5 decades ago. If I could say to my 30-year-old self, trust yourself, yourself, trust yourself before anybody else,
yeah.
and be kinder, that person, that voice, and probably would have had different outcomes on a few different things in life.
And I think that's just such great wisdom and such a great way to end the podcast. If we could all have learnt in our early years to trust ourselves instead of being swayed by others, or, lying in bed at night at 2 o'clock in the morning and wake up wishing you hadn't done what you did, we would get on. Lynae, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm going to put all Lynae's details down below, how you can reach out to her and keep up to date with her. She's always posting on Instagram as well. See her every morning. She always has great tips in order to share with everybody. So thanks so much, Lynae, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Sally.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Mid-Life Reimagined Life Beyond Menopause podcast. Remember to subscribe so that you keep updated whenever a new episode drops. I love interviewing fascinating women, and women in midlife are fascinating. And I look forward to bringing you more episodes with some wonderful people in the next period of time. Thanks for joining us.